So, if you know anything about my work, you know that I host an annual art and wellness event called Healing House. And a few years ago, I had a healing house that was at the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills, a beautiful hotel, and the space that we were in was wonderful. And there were certain people that I hadn't met before because it was the first time that I had done my event in Los Angeles instead of in Orange County. So I met Josh Pierce, who I had followed on Instagram, and he followed me, and we got to meet in person. Lovely human being. His work, his artwork is, I don't know what he calls it actually, specifically, but it's consciousness, spirituality in digital art form. And he's doing these beautiful shows in New York right now. If you are in the Chelsea area, well, I'll put the links below so that you can check out his shows. But he's doing these immersive events or experiences where you can go in and literally sit inside of his art. And I'm really honored that he is going to be a part of Healing House in January. That's a fundraiser for City of Hope at the Lido Theater here in Newport Beach. He's going to be, working with me to incorporate my artwork and his artwork on the screen for Healing House. And it'll be a meditative experience like nothing before. So if you have a chance to come check out Healing House at the Lido Theater, I would love for you to come see Josh and meet him in person. And you get to hear in this episode, he is so inspiring when it comes to meditation and inspiration. And he shares his story and how he's gotten into creating the work that he creates. But he also just shared some other nuggets. He's super deep and wise. And I hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I did talking to him. He's just a really great guy. And make sure that you follow him on Instagram, Jay Pierce. And you can check out more of his work at joshpierce.net. All of the links will be below, but I just want to make sure that you can go check out his work because it's pretty extraordinary. It really does give you a chance to just take a deep breath and step into a moment where you are really connected. So enjoy this episode. Thanks so much for listening. First of all, I want to know how you got started as an artist, because I think for people who are artists, it's interesting to just kind of hear how it all began, and then we'll get into the inspiration piece.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think I was born an artist.
Same.
Um, I think when I was a kid, like I always had, some sort of interest in creativity, markers, paper, and tape were like that was what I was into. I had like, this box full of markers and construction paper and tape. And I was always like building things out of paper for some reason. And I got into some sculpture classes and those kinds of things. And I realized very quickly that my mind works in three dimensions. Like I'm not so much of a 2D flat artist, even though my work is viewed that way. So when I got in, like, I love to like draw comics and things as a kid, and I did a lot of kind of psychedelic line art drawings when I was a teenager. So I got very into like textures and patterns and flow. Um, and then I went to school and I started learning graphic design because you got to get a job, right? So,
Yeah.
um, and I actually got into like a really cool program at RIT in Rochester, New York, that was teaching like really cutting edge multimedia design. And so I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts. I studied fine art, studied art history, and we learned animation and 3D design, along with like web design and other stuff in like the early 2000s. So I got like a pretty great foundation in school, in 3D design, modeling, sculpting, lighting, texturing, compositing, all these like kind of movie industry skills that I translated into motion design career, where I worked mostly in sports and entertainment and music. Um,
It's
but yeah,
interesting because what you're talking about, all the modalities make so much sense with what you do.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
yeah.
anyway, sorry, I cut you off. You were just
No,
gonna
no,
say
no,
something.
no, it's fine. Um, so like, yeah, so that's how that's how I got into being an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. So for the listeners, Josh's work, if you haven't seen it, you have got to go check him out on Instagram. I mean, that's where you and I connected was I saw your work first on Instagram and
Hmm.
I just remember seeing it so much, like so many people sharing the videos of these beautiful, immersive, meditative landscape, dreamscape, beautiful images, but they were moving and there was just
Hmm.
so much to them. And it's like you can't just flip by it. You have
Hmm.
to, you get lost in it. And so, what you're talking about with all of your training and the things in the 3D and starting out, it's like as artists, I think we evolve so much. And sometimes it's just like this calling from our soul that we hear at a young age. Did you have anybody who said to you at any point in time, you can't be an artist or that's not a real job or any of that? Because I did. And most artists have heard that. So I'm just curious if you ever got that message.
I really didn't. The first person that comes to mind is my mom, who I love dearly. And, I think that she helped me so much because she saw that, this is why I studied graphic design. She saw that I had a passion for creativity, and creative problem solving and visual language and storytelling. And, she didn't say, you can't be an artist, that's not a job. She said, wait a minute, being an artist is a job.
Yeah.
But, you got to have a marketable skill. So in a way, like I was never encouraged to be a fine artist. I was encouraged to be an applied artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
In some ways, I wish I was encouraged more to do the work that you've done because I never did. And I'm still on pen and paper
yeah.
or
Well,
paintbrush.
it really I love graphic design also. Like I when I studied it, I fell in love with it. As an artist, I think if you study any art form, you'll start to see the beauty in it. If I had studied architecture, I probably would have fell in love with that.
Yeah.
I love architecture too, and I love seeing how creativity can be expressed in different forms. And so when I studied graphic design, I really did fall in love with it. And what it taught me primarily was composition and how like visual hierarchy and how to draw the eye through the piece, like from one place to another. Uh, so that was cool. And like I don't I still enjoy graphic design a ton. And that's what I do for my job, motion design, and yeah, and title design, and those are all things I'm interested in.
Yes. And you could probably do them in your sleep. And
Yeah.
so, how did you transition? So, your artwork is very consciousness focused. And
Mhm.
so, at what point in time did you switch from being more of like a traditional artist in terms of graphics and that type of thing into more of the consciousness focused work?
Sure. You know, that's a great question. And I have to go back and tell you, go back and say that like, this was not something that I had ever planned to do. I I was pretty solid in my career. But around when I was so it was like 2010 to 2013, right around when I turned like 29 years old. Um, I was having a lot of struggles. I was having a lot of mental health struggles. And I made a lot of like pretty dramatic changes in my life. Quit drinking, quit taking any kind of anything else. Um, Started exercising more and started meditating. Started seeking help from therapy and from support groups. And one of the things that I stumbled on was meditation. And I got very interested in Buddhism, reading Eckhart Tolle. reading Jack Kornfield and various other. There's a guy named Steve Hagen. I really like his writings as well. So I was doing a lot of meditation, um, and my life was getting a lot better, and things were going really well. And I was still doing my job, and I had this kind of, I had this like curiosity that when I was a teenager, I used to do, I was telling you about these kind of psychedelic line art drawings. And I would just sit for hours, really, and do this kind of meditative work.
Mhm.
And so I kind of challenged myself, like, well, what if I took an hour every day and I created some art, you know? Um, and I decided I'm gonna use the tools that I use at work, to maybe I'll improve my skills a little bit too. But I'll just make whatever I want to make. You know, I'll start doing some trees and some landscapes and things that I really enjoy creating. And so that's how it started. I was doing it as a practice, to just sit and create for an hour every day, you know, and I was trying to do it every single day. And to keep myself accountable, I was posting it every day.
Mhm.
So I was like, so, you know, I'm going to create a little something, I'll post it. I'll create a little something and post it. And after about a year or so, like the meditative aspect of it, because at the beginning I was doing a lot of abstract stuff, some sci-fi stuff, you know, things that I'm familiar with, like from my work, and design stuff, graphic design stuff. But after about a year, like that flavor of meditation, that flavor of mindfulness, like started finding its way into the work, and it became very there was an element of stillness in the pieces. Even when I animated them, there's this sort of
Mhm.
a stillness, where you can see the piece and pause, and you can kind of feel the space in it. Um, and so
Because
people,
that's what I experience when I look at your work. So it's interesting. Did you design it that way or did you just realize it was that way?
you know, I didn't design it that way.
Yeah.
I created, um, what was in my soul, you know, for lack of a better way of putting it. What was in my heart, what was in my mind, what was in my soul. And speaking with form, speaking with color, speaking with that visual language. Just to be able to show people, you know, this is accessible to you. Like this is accessible to everyone. The experience of being grounded within oneself in the present moment, you know, surrounded by this 3D reality is accessible to all of us. And that can be, you can try to say that with words, but I think it's easier to say it, for me, with the art.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so amazing just talking to you and hearing this and just knowing your work. And I think it's really interesting. So we're talking in this episode about inspiration. And I have these
Mhm.
questions that I want to ask you. And I'm like, you know what? You're answering these questions without me even asking you, which is so interesting. And at the same time, I don't even need to ask you what your inspiration, your practice is in terms of, you know, like a healing practice of inspiration, because it's how you're living, you
Sure.
know? And so, and even, I don't even need to ask you a tip that you would give to anybody listening, because the truth is you're inviting them to come look at your work and that could serve enough for them, you
Yeah. I
know?
mean, I think that, you know, for people, sorry, say it again. What's the tip?
Yeah, I mean the tip is really you're inviting people to
Uh-huh.
step into your work. And that's the
Yeah.
thing about your work. You cannot look at your work
Uh-huh.
without sort of taking a deep breath and sort of, I don't want to say getting lost in it for a moment, but it just pulls you in and you are still, even if it's
hmm
for a moment. And I don't know any other artist that does that the way that you do.
Oh, well, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
I like the phrasing that you used when you said getting lost.
Hey, just a little break here so that I could invite you to join me in my monthly Confident Intuition workshop. You can find out more information at confidentintuition.com, or if you go to my website at brittmichaelian.art, it's just under the services there, the Confident Intuition workshop. And it's really just for anybody who wants to develop a stronger connection with your intuition so that you can operate in the world with more clarity and confidence. And I really stress the confidence piece of it, because if you come every month, you will be developing your intuition, and we'll be doing exercises, and you'll get support. There's a Q&A, and it's just a really great way to know that you're always tapping into your inner wisdom. So if it sounds interesting to you, go check out confidentintuition.com. Thanks so much, and back to the
And
show.
you said maybe that's not the right word, but I think it is. I think that there's these hidden phrases in our language.
It's either
Um,
getting lost or finding yourself. I don't know what
right.
it is.
Well, you have to wonder when we say this, I got lost, I got lost in it, or I lost myself.
Mm-hmm.
What are we really talking about? And I think it's so interesting, because the self is something that we carry around with us everywhere. It's a bundle of thoughts. It's a bundle of identifications, of this is who I am, this is what I do, this is where I'm going, this is what I need today. And it's an anxiety factor.
Totally.
And all of the spiritual traditions throughout time, have called this thing different things. I like to call it the ego.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really this thing that we carry around with us, and we call it the self, and we think that it's us. You know,
Yeah.
we think that it's me.
Yeah.
And so when you go for a walk in the woods, or you look at a beautiful piece of art, you lose yourself. And then you go, wait, I'm here, and myself is not here.
Yes.
Myself, my little bundle of thoughts, it's not here. It went over there somewhere. And for a moment, I had the experience of pure consciousness, right? And that's what meditation really is. It's about losing yourself.
And being
Uh,
in spirit or inspired.
yeah.
Yes,
And being inspired,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because you can't really be inspired when you're in the mind.
Yes.
The mind will create all sorts, it can be clever. The mind can be very clever. It can come up with all sorts of ideas, and like, here's a hook. Here's how I'm gonna draw people into, what I have to say. Um, but it doesn't really have the same kind of access to, yeah, that inspiration, that comes from beyond, right? Um, that you have to open the channel, right? You have to be like this
Hmm.
when you're creating. You can't be like this.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, do you have any tips for anybody who wants to open the channel other than meditation?
Oh, I was gonna say meditation.
Yeah. We know meditation's a big one, and being in nature, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think being in nature is a huge way to open the channel. Exercise is fantastic. I mentioned, well, I'm a surfer. I like to
Hmm.
surf, and I like to do trail running. I like to do any kind of exercise where I'm outside. Those are wonderful, ways to step outside of the stream of thinking, because it can't be hard, I mean, it can be hard for people to kind of access that. I hear a lot of people say like, "Oh, I can't meditate. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how to do that." Right?
Yeah.
I can't clear my mind.
Yeah.
I can't, and it's hard, and it's you know, it is not the type of thing where, you're going to be able to sit down and clear and free your mind.
Yeah. I know it's
You know,
interesting because even if you've been meditating for years and years and years, you still have thoughts. And
yeah.
so a lot of people, when they have thoughts, feel defeated, and then they just keep having thoughts. And then they're thinking about the fact that they're having thoughts, and they just forget it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
really
there's a
about,
frustration.
yeah, it is. It's really about just accepting that that is what happens,
Yeah,
and, just sitting with it. And then
right.
the longer you sit with it, the more you get bored of having thoughts, and whoa, you find yourself in this moment of, maybe I'm not having thoughts right now. But as soon as you think that you're
Right.
not having thoughts, you're thinking.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's awareness of awareness. You know,
Yes.
you become aware that you're aware, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then you go back to thinking, and then
Yeah.
you come back. But it's kind of like I tell people it's like going to the gym. Like you can't expect to go into the gym and be able to lift the heaviest weights and just or to run, a 5 minute mile. Like this is just not going to happen. Like it's called a practice. Like you go in and you practice, and what you're practicing is how to step outside of the stream of cascading thoughts, because that's what really gives us trouble. It isn't the things of the world that are coming in and disrupting our sense of inner peace. It's really our thoughts about it, and it's our perspective. And so the practice is practicing how to shift our perspective to, towards, um, you know, stepping out of the catastrophizing, out of the thinking, and into pure awareness, which is the doorway into gratitude for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, because once you're in awareness, then it's easy to see that I'm here, I have a body, I have air, I'm on this planet, I can look up at the stars, I can see the clouds, and I'm only here for the blink of an eye. I get to experience consciousness. Um, and so, yeah, like just to get back to the topic, I think anything that you can do um, to bring yourself into alignment with what's happening on this planet in terms of like the evolution and the flowering of consciousness. Um, Anything that you can do that can take you into inspiration. Uh,
Yes. How often do you get ideas? Your most kind of, do you receive most of your creative ideas when you're in that space of meditation or when you're doing things? Like, where do you find for you the ideas in terms of the things that you want to create? Where do you receive those most?
You know, um, just to ground it back a little more, I look at a lot of art.
Yes.
I consume a lot of art and I listen to a lot of music. And I yeah, I look at a lot of art. So I like to look at landscape photography. I like but I like all kinds of art. So, I often get inspired and also from nature. I often get inspired by, yeah, things like I see just a little rock formation. And I'm like, this is really cool how these rocks are like stacked in this way. And like, I wonder if I could do that, in my software. Like, I wonder, like, or lighting, lighting is always so interesting. When I look at painting, especially like Renaissance painting,
Mm-hmm.
there's such interesting lighting. And also like abstract expressionism, like the way that they use light just as a just as a like, excuse me, uh should have put myself on silent. um Yeah, I love playing with lighting, and inside the software you can kind of, you can play with light in such an interesting way, and you can experiment, which is why I love the tools I use so much, because I can take a rock or a mountain or a tree and light it one way and get one effect, and then just play with the light and see, and then as you move the light, you go, oh, there it is,
Yeah.
there's something really interesting. So, I get inspired from everything around me, from other creators, from nature, um, and then from just experimenting.
Yeah, I mean, you're using the word experimenting. I use the word play. And I
Yeah.
think that making art is very much about playing and
Hmm.
not having rules and just playing. And so that you can see what works and what doesn't. And sometimes something that shouldn't work does, and something that should work doesn't. And so not being frustrated with that, although it can be an interesting exercise in patience.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
sure with this, with the digital stuff, because I'm working with, pen and paper, canvas and paint. And so it's different mediums. But going back to inspiration, a lot of people, not only do people say that they can't meditate, a lot of people say I'm not creative. And so, like I can't seek inspiration, or inspiration doesn't matter to me because I'm not an artist, or that type of thing. What would you say to those types of people who sort of resist inspiration or creativity in terms of why it matters?
Yeah, I think that you said it. You already kind of answered your question. It's play. Like
Yes,
I think we need it, because I think that we we need to communicate. And I think art is a form of communication. Ultimately, it's a language. And sometimes we don't know how to say what we want to say. And sometimes even if you're not an artist, it might be helpful to just go into a room and paint, for a couple of hours before you have to come back and talk to your family,
yeah,
because sometimes it will help you to understand what it is that you're trying to say, or help you to organize your thoughts, you know.
totally. Yeah. I mean, I have masters in art therapy, and I did art therapy in the hospital setting. So a lot of the time, the people who were in the hospital setting, just giving them watercolors and saying,
Mhm.
just make a mess, was the most liberating thing for them. And it just would kind of give them that space to play.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. But so the other thing is that I find it fascinating that you are not only creating these experiences that people can see on Instagram, and the sort of, as you said, the 2D, the 3D experience and the 2D presentation, but you also have these immersive experiences that people can go. And I'd love to have you talk about how that came about and just what your ultimate vision is with that work.
Sure, yeah. Like the project that was just shown in New York, it's still up through December. It's called Submerge Beyond the Render. And it was it's a group of artists, who many of them I've known for a decade at this point. And many of us, we all use the same sort of software. And there's a lot of like technology behind the software, and getting it, improving it, getting it better, making it faster, making it bigger. And there's an organization that helps to run the software, and they're called the Render Network, the Render Foundation. And so they commissioned a group of about 15 of us artists, to use like the highest, most advanced form of their technology, to create a series of pieces, for this immersive environment in New York, which is called Artechouse. And it's in Chelsea Market, in Chelsea, down the basement. They've converted this old boiler room, into, and it has like, 40-foot ceiling, and it's this really cool space, and it's like very New York. But the projection wraps around, on all the walls and the floor, and you can sit inside of it. And so, the artists each use their own language to tell a different story. But with this canvas, I had, I was so delighted to be able to use this canvas for what I create. Because what I create is about bringing the audience into the experience of the work, and into the experience of kind of being immersed in that, bathed,
Yeah.
bathed in that meditative feeling of stillness, oneness, calmness. And so the piece, which is about 2.5 minutes long, is a journey of transcendence. And it uses the five jhana factors, which are essentially, the initial application of the process of meditation, um, the deepening of it, and then the consistency. That's part two. And then part three, is called the ecstasy, where you break through that noise, or that mundaneness of trying to sit there with your thoughts, and then you break through into this ecstasy, and you feel this transcendent energy flowing through you. The stage after that, stage 4, is more of a calming stage where you're still feeling the ecstasy, but it's calmed down and there's a deep peace. And then the final stage is total oneness, where you feel one with the universe and with everything.
So we do
Um,
this in 2.5 minutes.
in 2.5 minutes, I'll take you from there to
Wow.
enlightenment.
Amazing.
I'll take you
Yeah.
from the streets of New York to enlightenment in 2.5 minutes. Yeah,
Oh
that should have been
gosh,
the
that's
slogan.
awesome. That should be
Yeah,
mandatory for every New Yorker.
yeah, for sure. And you can see on my Instagram, I took a ton of photos and a ton of videos of how the space looks. And like that's the feedback that I was getting from people when I was there experiencing it. That they step out of that space and they're like, oh my God, I'm still in the city,
Yeah.
because they lose themselves.
Yeah. That's amazing. Good for
And that's
you.
my hope, that's my hope that they will do that. Um, so yeah. And I do have another project that I'm working on. It's so interesting you brought up art therapy. Like it's something that I'm very interested in. I think, I have this belief that art can be therapeutic, um,
Hmm.
that it can be it can assist in positive mental health outcomes, and that we can use art, as a way to bridge the gap between, um, wellness and health, and
Yes.
without drugs.
Yes, yes, which is why I create the artwork that I do as well. So I've had kind of that full circle where in the beginning it was, and I do feel like I'm going to go back to that work at some point in time. And I'm actually doing it with clients too, where we
Yeah.
create pieces together. But I think that my artwork is the passive healing. So people can sit back and they can, choose to engage or meditate the same way that they do with your work,
Mhm.
or they can just simply be with the artwork and receive healing because it's transmitting healing frequencies. So I think that what we're doing, both of us, is kind of where the art world is going. I'd
Yeah.
like to believe.
Yeah. Well, I think art is so underrepresented in the world. I think this is one application of it. It
Yes.
can be used in so many ways. But this is definitely like a beautiful use of it, and a beautiful you know application of art for
Yeah.
sure. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that it's really like it should be more like 1/3.
Yeah.
Like what we do as human beings in our activities in the world, I think should be 1/3 art.
Totally. We're here to create. And
Yeah,
art also encompasses things like cooking and there's so many different
yeah,
forms, gardening, there's so many different
yeah,
forms of art.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So
for
much of art has been hijacked by science.
totally.
and
Totally.
and it's become process, architecture, entertainment, all movies, and
Yeah.
all of those things are been reduced more to a science, and it drains the life out of them.
Commodity. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. So
And
the
food.
creativity and inspiration. Yes, yes, totally.
Yeah.
So now we're going to be doing something with your artwork at Healing House in January, which I'm
Very
really
excited.
excited about. Yeah. So
Yeah,
people, if they can't get to New York, they'll be able to come see your work at Healing House and at the Lido Theater in January. And that's going to be a fundraiser for City of Hope Cancer Treatment Centers. And
fantastic.
yeah, and so and I'm just so honored to have you be a part of this, and just everything that you're doing is so amazing and exciting, because I feel like you're kind of at the forefront of something that's just going to continue to expand. And so I think everybody who's listening should just keep an eye on what Josh is doing, because I think it's going to be a lot bigger of a footprint here very shortly. But
Thank you so much. I
yeah.
really appreciate you saying that. I really hope that what I'm doing will be able to positively impact people's lives, like in a really real, like in a real way. I don't have any other ambition besides that.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah,
Sincerely.
thank
And for
you.
anybody who's listening who just wants to be inspired, go check out Josh on Instagram. It's J Pierce.
That's right. Yeah.
And any of your Instagram posts, and then you're also on YouTube as well, correct?
Yes, I started doing some guided meditations of my own with with animated versions of my art.
Yeah. So you're just doing amazing stuff. And then, keep an eye out for future shows and whatnot. And I'm just inspired listening to you. I want to go get out my paint and my pencils and start
Oh,
drawing and creating, and maybe some tape and paper, and it sounds
amazing.
good. Yeah. So
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really, really honored that you asked me to come and talk. I'm a huge fan of your work
thank
and
you.
everything that you've done with Healing House. It's been very inspiring and it's so it's inspiring in the way that I'm grateful that there's other people out there that are also, walking this path and are interested in these things. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Daily Healing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and leave a review wherever you're listening. And make sure that you subscribe, because I send Reiki healing to each one of my subscribers on Substack, on to my podcast, or my email list. I send out Reiki healing on the first of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So make sure that you're subscribed so that you can receive the benefits of healing. And thank you so much again for listening to this episode. I genuinely appreciate your support and you listening.